Hello. Hello, everyone. So my job as a keynote speaker is to inspire, entertain, and hopefully give you something that you can take away. And we're trying to answer this question: how can we adapt, innovate, and lead to thrive? But in typical AJ style, I met some of you, so you can sort of tell I'm not your conventional keynote speaker. So if it's all right with you, we're going to put this question to one side, and we're going to go on a bit of a journey, have some fun, love the energy in the room. You guys all having a good night or what? Yeah? Sweet. You're very kind. It's okay if you're not. By the end, you will, as soon as the wine hits. So we're going to go on a bit of a journey, and I hope that's okay with you. And if it's not, well, tough. No. All right, here we go. I want to kick off tonight's show, because it is a show, not a presentation. I want to kick off tonight's show praying that the technology gods work. Yes, with this little fella here. This is the humble bumblebee. And I heard the most interesting story a couple of years ago about this little character. It turns out in the 1930s, two scientists were sitting down discussing this fella over a couple of red cordials. And they were saying that, look, this little fella's wings cannot generate, tiny little wings cannot generate enough lift to move its massive body. So therefore, the scientists in their infinite wisdom ascertained that due to the laws of physics, the bumblebee cannot fly. But here's the thing. The bumblebee doesn't know the laws of physics, so it continues to fly quite merrily. And when I heard this story, I thought it's a beautiful metaphor for the way I see the world. There are people out there just like the scientists. We've all met them, with their policies, their procedures, their rules, their regulations. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, except the world is changing so rapidly. And sometimes we need to rethink what we're doing over there so that we can be the bumblebee. And this story resonated quite particularly with me because it reminded me of my dad. So my background is Sri Lankan. I come from traditional Sri Lankan parents. Very strict, you know, you must get the airlines, don't bother coming home, that sort of thing, right? So my childhood was quite strict, but even worse, my dad was a traditional Sri Lankan army captain, and he was raised in, he was actually, he operated as an army captain when the British ruled Sri Lanka. So my childhood was essentially boot camp. A little bit different to your boot camp, I'm guessing. But yeah, so I would constantly butt heads with my dad, and it got really frustrating for me. But I've learned since then not to butt heads with him, but to work with that perspective. So let me share with you a story. One time I came up from university, and I stayed at my parents' house, and I got locked in my old bedroom. Now, I don't have a lock on the door, but the handle was failing. And so I jiggled it around, I moved it all around, and the door busted open. My dad comes running along, and he says, "Oh my goodness, what have you done? You've broken the door. Now I'll have to call your cousin to come and fix it." And then I said to my dad, "Dad, you don't need to call my cousin to fix it. I can fix this." And my dad, with his rules, policies, procedures, and regulations, looks at me and goes, You studied IT. How can you fix this? I'll call your cousin. That's his world, right? That's his world. And so instead of fighting with him, because you can't change people's mindsets if they're so ingrained in it, but you can work around it, just like the bumblebee. So I said to my dad, okay, obviously you don't think I'm qualified enough to fix this. So how about I teach you how to fix it and you can go fix the door? Oh, okay, that makes sense. So we went to Bunnings, grabbed the handle, and I came home, taught him how to fix the door, and he fixed the door, right? Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But in his world, it made complete sense. And I find this fascinating. So a key point that I'd like you guys to think about as we progress through this session is what rules are limiting your thinking? What rules are limiting your thinking? And I had the luxury of meeting several of you today, so I know that you're very creative and full of energy. But I just want to test how creative you actually are. So we're going to go play a game. This game is called What's Impossible. You guys in a gaming mood? Sure, why not? Yes, of course. All right, cool. So we're going to play a game. It's called What's Impossible. I want you to yell out something that's impossible. But before you do, what I'd like for someone to do, maybe at the back tables, I need a volunteer. You can stay seated. It's completely fine. But can someone put your hand up and volunteer to write down everything that the people yell out? Can I have a volunteer, please? Anyone got a bit of paper or on your phone or something? All right, green, thank you. Sorry, your name is? Oh, you got paper. Margie, can you please? All right, green, can you please raise your hand again? Thank you so much. And what was your name? Joyce. Joyce. Everyone, big hand of applause for Joyce. Joyce, you're a hero. All right, let's play the game. All right, yell it out. What's impossible? Let's go, Ballarat. Go. Licking your elbow. Licking your elbow. Joyce, you got that. What else? Come on. Teleporting. Great. What else? Sorry, eating soup with a fork. I love it. Cool. What else? Something that's impossible. A suntan in Ballarat. Oh! Snap! Snap. Obviously, I won't be working on mine then. All right. So, what else? Come on. What's that? Joyce, is that 3 or is that 4? It's 4. It's 4. All right. Come on. Let's get 10. Come on, Ballarat. Let's go. Sorry, what? Time travel. Joyce, what else? Sorry, rise from the dead. Yeah, cool. All right, fitness. What's something that's impossible? 1,000 push-ups for me. Nah. Fitness. Come on, what's impossible? Nothing. Nothing. Something's got to be impossible. Come on. Invisibility. Great. What else? Oh! Oh, snap. Snap. I love it. This is great. Joyce, how many? 11. Okay, cool. We've got bonus. Well done, Ballarat. Thank you. All right, let's see. Now, how this game is played is that I've got 10 based on the last 5 years of speaking with people all around the world. And let's see if your 10 or your 11 matches my 10. These are the most common answers that I get from around the world, talking to different countries, cultures, people, organizations, businesses. Let's see how we go. What is impossible around the world? Fly or levitate. I think we got that. Not so creative, lose a point. Walk on water. Have we got that, Joyce? Oh, okay. All right, a little bit of creativity in the room. Great. Time travel. Oh, now we're getting into it. Breathe underwater without tanks. Okay, that's cool. All right, we're still creative in the room. Teleport, materialize, invisible. I think someone said that. Lose a point. All right. Men have babies. I love your cleaning toilet one. That's going up there, I reckon. Number 7. Live forever, awaken the dead. Oh, someone said that. Oh, not so good. Not so good. These next 3 are my own, and I'll be really surprised if any of you get it. No one gets these 3. Actually, someone got it. I was teaching a class in China the other day, and someone said one of these things, which is quite interesting. So, ride a black unicorn. Lift this building with my bare hands. And the bane of my existence, avoid my mum trying to marry me off. Sri Lankan parents, hey, I tell ya. So we're a little bit creative, and I love that because your creativity is what will help you thrive. And I love this. So let's keep going. I want to introduce you to my world, which is the world of innovation and disruption. And these 2 words have very special characteristics about them that keep me very busy these days. Let's do with innovation, because that's the easy one. All right, so innovation. If you understand what innovation is, you get it, you use it, you love it, and beautiful things happen like magic. But if you don't, you hate talking about innovation. It drives you, really frustrates you, and you want to stab people when they talk to you about innovation. Also, I found. Maybe I just need to get out more. I don't know. So it's quite interesting. And my background is small business. Like Margie mentioned that I did have a consulting firm. So I was one of you, basically. And now I moved on to the corporate area because I like to self-punish myself, like whatever. So I found this really fascinating. Why do people hate innovation? And I dug in deep over the last 5 years, and I realized they don't actually hate innovation. at some point in their lives, they've had a leader come into their organization or their business and say, hey, we've got to innovate, we've got to change. And they never do. And they never do, right? And so these poor souls have been promised something that gets never delivered. And what I find fascinating is that the reason why these leaders don't deliver it is because they don't understand innovation themselves. Now, having said that, some of the sponsors were very kind in sharing what they thought about innovation with me. And I'd like to explore them right now, if that's cool. So I want you to have a look at these definitions, and I'll tell you something really interesting about them in a second. So first of all, we've got Megan. Megan, where are you? Oh, cool, yeah. It's all right, I love this. Megan says, ability to develop and implement new service offerings to clients or change a process or system within our firm. Thank you so much, Megan, for sponsoring tonight's event. Yeah, give her a round of applause. Cool. There's 53 of these. No, I'm kidding. Lee, thank you so much, Lee, from Fernwood. Investing in business systems, programs, services, and our people. Creating value, offering flexibility and convenience to meet consumer demand. Thank you, Lee, for sponsoring tonight. Yes, give her a clap. Fiona, I love yours. Looking well beyond law firms and professional services to find novel solutions which improve efficiencies and also bring a more joyful experience to both our team and our clients. And I love particularly how she says looking well beyond her business, because I think there's something magical about that when you go beyond what's right in front of you and you, for lack of a better term, steal other people's ideas. You know, do it with integrity, but, you know, borrow them, perhaps. Anyway, thank you, Fiona. Thank you for sponsoring tonight. Fortitude Legal, thank you. Leanne, is Leanne here tonight? Doesn't want to admit it? Oh, Leanne, hello. Thank you so much for your definition. Leanne says, innovation may be improving on existing practices, leveraging off our existing business, or creating new business ideas. And that's Leanne Parker. Thank you so much for sponsoring tonight, Leanne. So here's the interesting thing about all these definitions. They're very individual, they're contextual. And innovation is an individual thing. If you know, Fortitude Legal cannot use, this definition. It just wouldn't make sense. So when you're trying to be innovative inside your own businesses, figure out what's important to you. Everything's contextual. And now we've got Simone. Where's Simone? Hey, Simone, thanks so much. So innovation is a challenge to the status quo, an informed leap into the unknown. I don't know why I'm using this voice to read this out. It's also exhilarating, groundbreaking, and rewarding, and totally necessary for business survival. Thank you, Simone, for sponsoring tonight. Star Wars call, they want you as a consultant for the innovation division. I love that. And lastly, Susan, who's not here with us today, innovation is looking for a more efficient manner to do something and also creating more products. When I think of innovation, I think of the word change. Yeah, because that's what innovation is. It's about you being able to respond to change. Which leads us to the second word, disruption. The characteristics of disruption are quite interesting. I think all of us kind of know what disruption is. I mean, we've all been around a newborn child, right? That's a disruptive force, if I've ever seen one. So the thing about disruption that fascinates me is that there is so much written about disruption. There's so much being produced. There's podcasts, there's movies, there's books. And this has been going on for a very long time. How many of you have heard of Airbnb? Yeah, all of us, right? We know what that did to the hotel industry. How many of you know about Uber? We all know how that improved taxis. We know what disruption is. So my key frustration around this point is, why do we keep getting disrupted? When so much information and knowledge and wisdom is already out there, why do we keep getting disrupted? And this question has really driven me, and it comes back to what Susan was saying about change, because disruption is what a business feels when it fails to innovate to stay relevant. Disruption is what a business feels when it fails to innovate to stay relevant. So important. Another reason why disruption occurs is because there's two specific conditions before disruption actually happens. So we've got three circles here labeled friction, frustration, and then the disruption. So within a business, within an organization, there's some sort of friction. All of us have businesses, organizations. We know that there is friction there. We know about it. Do we attend to it? Not quite. That friction, if unattended to, leads to frustration. And then someone comes along and says, you know what, I'm tired of this. I want to do something better. And they provide a better alternative. They innovate to provide a better alternative. Give you an example. Do you remember, I was reading a history book, and they said back in the day, people used to ring up to order taxis. Do you guys ever remember that? Like, damn. You know, and this used to be a device that people used to communicate on. Gavin, I know it's a telephone, I'm just kidding with you, a little bit. But you used to ring up and order a taxi, right? And that, once upon a time, was a great experience. But then the world changed, and all of a sudden, there was a little bit of friction. Talk about friction, try ordering a taxi when your last name's Kulatunga. And your first name's AJ. Adrian will send the cab. No, it's AJ, damn it. Taxi for Adrian. So this turned into frustration. Has anyone been in a cab ride from hell? Has anyone? Yeah, right? And then 3 dude bros in America come along and say, hey, wouldn't it be cool, I don't know, this is a dude bro voice, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could summon a black car to come pick us up? I don't know why accents come out. It's that time of night. We're all having wine. It's great. Run with it, all right? So yeah, and they disrupted by creating Uber. And it's fascinating. This little device in our hands is almost like a gateway drug to convenience, ultimate convenience. We can literally hit a button on our phone and summon food to our door. We can hit a button and summon transport to our door. We can hit a button and even invite a potential life partner to our door. More like a weekend partner. But this is the gateway of convenience, right? But also, this is the world that we all live in today. So all of a sudden, if you've got a business that doesn't honor that level of convenience, you may not face disruption today, might not be tomorrow, might not even be next week. But at some point, you will face it. So that's how disruption works. And what I want to do now is pray to the technology gods. I want to give you an idea of how you can actually fix the friction in your businesses, fix the friction in your organizations, fix the friction with your teams, with your people, with your stakeholders, with your customers, with your clients. Just fix the friction. And this is called heart-centered innovation. And it's my method that I'm sharing around the world. Obviously, I'm quite exhausted because it's just me in a big world, right? But it's something I came up with during the pandemic when I saw how people were so much pain. Everywhere I went, there was so much pain. The COVID pandemic caused us to feel something that we've never felt before. And anyone who says that they weren't affected is either lying or they didn't really fully understand the circumstances around them. So I came up with heart-centered innovation. This is why it's so important. When most people talk about innovation, they talk about external innovation. We need new products. We need new services. Great. Wonderful. Great. But inside your businesses, inside your organizations, there are real people in there, just like this room. You guys still having a good time, right? Yeah. So the reason you're having a good time is because we're all in this one room. We're all connected in a human way. And to do that, that's called internal innovation. You need to be able to activate your people inside your organization to think differently, to think creatively, and they will come alive. It's interesting, right now I'm working with a school in China, story for another time, but I'm working with a school from China, and the teachers say to me, hey, listen, the kids have been in lockdown, they're not really creative, don't worry about it. But for some strange reason, when I spoke to them, they played What's Impossible, and they came up with the most unique stuff. They got the ride a black unicorn thing, you know, like, that's what I mean. If you give people the opportunity to innovate, they will. So I want to share with you quickly how to do this. So this is heart-centered innovation, and it's 4 pillars, 4 circles, and everything starts from the care pillar. Yes, please take photos of this, share it around the world. I want my work to outlive me. I don't know when I'm going to go, so please do me a favor. Share it on the Instablah, the Twitters, the LinkedIn, the Bookface, whatever. Tag me in it, because I like my visibility, all right? So everything starts with care, because if people don't care, nothing happens anywhere, right? And we all have felt it when someone cares. We all know what that's like. That's the sort of spirit we need in our businesses. We need to care. Okay, and here's the difference. Before the pandemic, we wanted people to empathize with us, understand who we are, where we're coming from, and just show us empathy. But after the pandemic, after this scenario, global scenario that's impacted all of us, we want people to care. Here's the difference. One of my biggest challenges is getting on larger stages as a professional speaker, because there aren't many people that look like me on those big stages. So I'm coming along and trying to shift the status quo. And I was telling a friend of mine, he's a corporate CEO type, and I said to him, hey, this is my challenge. And he says to me, AJ, I notice what you're doing. You're doing great. Keep going, my friend. You will get there. That's empathy. I say the same challenge to another friend of mine, and he says the most profound thing. He goes, AJ, I had a look at your website. You know what? I reckon your marketing's not quite right for you to be that global speaker. I just happened to do this amazing course recently, and I think you'll really benefit from it. Actually, you know what? I've actually got the course here with me today. So let me put it on USB key to you and send that to you, and then you can do the course, and if you're struggling with it, we'll just get on a call and I'll help you through it. Would that help you, AJ? Yeah, that would be great. And this happened during last year, during the brutal lockdown of 6 months. And what happened was, during the 1 hour of exercise that he got, my friend went to the post office with a USB key and posted it to me. And he kept his promise. He said, I will work on this with you. And he did. And part of that reason is why I'm here today, because my marketing now looks a little bit better. That, my friends, is care. That's the level of care that we want in all of our businesses, in all of our organizations, with our people. We want our people to care about our customers like that, because if people don't care, nothing happens anywhere, right? So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is the commit. When I began this journey looking around organizations, I found that most people are just involved in a lot of things, but they're not really committed. They're involved in a lot of things, but they're not really committed. Here's the difference. A chicken and a pig, my stories are insane, I hope you're understanding this now. A chicken and a pig are walking along, socially distanced, of course. And the chicken turns to the pig and says, hey, we should start a restaurant. The pig goes, well, what would we call it? The chicken thinks for a moment and goes, let's call it ham and eggs. The pig says, nah, because you, my friend, would be involved, but I would be committed. See, the pig has to give up its life to get the ham, whereas the chicken just plops an egg on the desk and walks away to live another day. I see this everywhere. A lot of managers, a lot of leaders drop stuff on your desk and just walk to live another way. They're involved, but they're not committed. And here's what's interesting. If you operate this without the care piece, if you commit to things you don't care about, you often burn out. And this is my definition of burnout. It is the moment beyond exhaustion caused by prolonged exposure to someone else's priorities. Feel free to screenshot this and post it on the Twitter sphere. But it's true, right? We commit to things that we care about all the time. It doesn't burn us out, right? So if you don't, this is why the care piece is so important, because if people don't care, nothing happens anywhere, So that is the commit piece. Everyone got the screenshots? Yep, cool. Let's keep going. This is the create piece. And this is where a lot of businesses and organizations get it wrong, because they rush in there, they see, oh, there's this problem in this area. All right, cool. They lock themselves in a boardroom and they try and fix the problem. They create solutions to the problem. Now, what's interesting is if you don't have the commit and you don't have the care, you create garbage that is never going to work. And then you try and flog it inside your organization or flog it to your customers, and they're just like, I don't need this, I don't want this, I want something else. Right? And this is where you can really have the opportunity. All of us here have the opportunity to create something special, right? But in order to create something special, you got to care, because nothing happens anywhere if people don't care, right? And they've got to be committed. And then you create. Then you create. And the last piece is you have to connect what you created to the rest of the world, and you do that through intelligent and strategic storytelling. And a lot of people get this wrong. Some of you work in larger organizations and you're doing this thing called digital transformation, right? Which is about changing your IT systems into something good, right? That decision gets made somewhere else separate from the rest of the people. And all of a sudden you're forced to use this software that is better, but it's a real pain to use it, right? But if you were just consulted or connected to this and they got you to care, beautiful things would happen, right? So this is the care, the commit, the create, and the connect. And the best thing about this model is you can use it as a diagnostic tool. So for instance, one of the challenges that all the sponsors said, because I asked them two questions, I said, what does innovation mean? And then I asked them, what is your biggest challenge? And the biggest challenge for a lot of people was, how do we get people that just don't understand innovation to think innovatively? How do we change someone's mind, a closed-minded person? In other words, how do you convince my dad to do something else, right? And this is how you do it. So why do people, they just don't care. They're not committed, they're not creative. So get them to care. Figure out what they care about and what you care about and build a bridge between the two. Let's say your challenge is recruitment. Well, how are you connecting with your future staff people? How are you connecting with them to get them to care? Have you been doing it the same thing that you've been doing for centuries? And when the world has changed and the workforce has changed? Or are you doing things differently? If you're struggling with employee retention, like all your people are leaving, which is the biggest problem in America right now, well, how can you get people to be really committed? And you get them to care, right? So it's a great diagnostic tool. And what's interesting about this is that the competitive advantage in business has changed over time. And I love being in this room because we're all business-minded, so you guys will really get this. Back in the 80s and 90s, you had people like Peter Drucker and Jack Welch, and they were all about process and efficiency. Sorry, can you see the slides? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Then you had the 2000s, and you had Jobsy and Gatesy, and they were all about the technology. And now, you've got these four thought leaders. You've got Angela Duckworth, whose topic is grit. You've got Mr. Simon Sinek, whose topic is leadership. Does anyone know who the gentleman there with the big ears is? Does anyone know who that is? Anyone? Nope. That's Adam Grant, and his topic is organization psychology. And the last one is Brene Brown, and hers topic is vulnerability. And the common theme amongst all these thought leaders is that people just give up their time and energy and money to hear these guys speak, aka my competitors. The reason why they go to this is because today's competitive advantage is about being human. Again, we're all having a great time here today because of that human connection, because the committee cared enough to put on this event for you, because the sponsors cared enough to host us, because the great venue supported us, right? This is what being human is. And I would like to share with you an idea how to activate human potential within your organization. And it's this concept of efficiency versus effectiveness. So remember I said we're going to put that question aside? So we're going to pick it up now and say, how do we adapt, innovate, and lead to thrive? I reckon a better question that'll help you answer this is how can we create better human experiences? And to do that, we have to really think the differently. Sorry, I'll get out of your way, taking a screenshot. Work within efficiency, your policies, your procedures, your rules and regulations, and effectiveness. So the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. And I'd like to share with you the best way I know how to do this. And we're gonna have a bit of fun now. Here's a photo of me during lockdown. I look a bit different. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Does anyone know who this guy is? Yes! Oh my God, thank you. It's Mr. Van Morrison. I did this in Darwin a couple of weeks ago and everyone was quiet. And I know it's going to go horribly wrong. So thank you. You know who Van Morrison is. So he wrote this song called Brown Eyed Girl. And I'm going to do something now. It's going to take a minute to set up. So can you turn to the person next to you and share something that you've learnt from tonight? Just keep everyone busy while I get distracted, all right? So have you learned something from tonight? Tell the person next to you. Alrighty. Let's try that again. Alrighty. All right, so hello. Hi. Okay. And back to me. Great. Okay, so let me just check to see if this is working. We've got the amazing Dakota on the deck tonight up the back. Give her a big round of applause. Thanks, Dakota. All right, let's see if this works. Can you still? Yeah. All right, here we go. This is called the Brown-Eyed Girl Challenge. Van Morrison wrote this song, and it's a very simple song to play. It's one of my favorite songs. It's just so efficient. It's 4 chords. You got 1. Ooh, that is nice. 2. Back to the 1. 3. Yeah, sorry, I can't count. This is why I speak. So that's 3, and then there's the 4th one. Ooh. All right, and here's how Van Morrison has written this song. Well, my interpretation of it anyway. Hey, where'd we go? Days when the rains came down in the hollow, playing a new game, laughing and a running, hey, hey, skipping and a jumping in the misty morning fog with our hearts a thumping, and you, my brown-eyed girl. Is that 4th chord? You, my brown-eyed girl. Oh, thank you. Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you. So for years, yeah, we'll come to that, Lee. We'll come to that. For years, I played it exactly how it's been written. 4 chords. It's efficient. Who wouldn't love it? You guys liked it. Until one day I went out in my hometown and I heard another musician play it. His name is Will. And Will plays it slightly differently. Will's version is not very efficient. This one has 4 chords. Will's version has 6 chords. Not as efficient, but take a listen. This is how Will's version goes. Hey, where'd we go? Days when the rains came down in the hollow, playing a new game, laughing and a running, hey, hey, skipping and a jumping in the misty morning fog with all our hearts a thumping, and you, my brown-eyed girl. You, my brown-eyed girl. So, 6 chords. Thank you. I'll take it. I'll take what I can get. Thank you. Thank you so much. 6 chords. Not as efficient. But whenever I ask anyone which version do they prefer, they say the second one. But it's not as efficient. And what's interesting about that is that Will, as a musician, quite masterful musician, Will took a look at what's written down on paper. He took a look at what's written down on paper and he thought differently, and he said, I'm going to create a better experience. In other words, Will took a look at your policies, your procedures, your rules and regulations, and he figured out a way to make them sound more effective. And that, my friends, is what I wish for all of us here in the room today. When you go back to your businesses, please go back and look at your policies, your procedures, your rules and regulations, and reimagine them to create better human experiences. And that is the Brown-Eyed Girl Challenge. Yeah, I'll take it. Thank you. Thank you. So the key point here is to sacrifice efficiency for effectiveness, and you'll be more effective. When you sacrifice efficiency, it means you'll be more effective. And I hope all of you, when you go back to work, will do this at some point. With your teams, with your customers, with your stakeholders, just do it. All right, what did we cover? I've been secretly grooming you all through the power of questions. So if you take a photo of this slide, you'll be able to remember what the time that we've shared here today. So please take a photo of it. It's a bunch of questions, and when you go back to your businesses or your organizations, your teams, throw this up and talk to your staff, talk to your stakeholders, talk to your clients, talk to your mum, talk to my dad, whatever, right? Just please take what I've given you today and go out there and do something different. All right, a few more photos, a couple more cameras. Cool. All righty, I think we're good to go. All right, I want to close this session with you now by sharing a story. And it's one of my favorite stories, but when I tell it, it's a very emotional story for me. So please forgive me if I sort of lose my way a little bit when I share this story with you. And it's a story about a kid named Robert. And so I used to speak at schools and universities in my hometown of Darwin. And one of the schools that I visited was my high school. And I remember talking there, and this 14-year-old kid comes running up to me afterwards, and he says, AJ, you were amazing. Can I get a job? And I said to him, no, champ, you can't get a job. He's like, okay, can I get a photo? I'm like, sure, man. So I took this photo. A couple of months later, his teacher rings me up and says, hey, AJ, it's Mrs. Davis. Do you remember do you remember that kid, Robert? And I said, no. You took the photo with him? Oh, yeah, Robert, yeah. What's his story? What's going on? And said, listen, he's in a bit of trouble at school. He's failing school. And all he wants to do is get a job in the IT industry. And because he's 14 years old, no one will let him work. I don't suppose you've got a job for him. I said, Mrs. Davies, I don't. But I remember Robert. Let me have a chat with him and let me see what is going on with him. So I go meet Robert and I say, hey, champ, you don't look like the dumbest kid around. Why are you failing school? And he says to me, AJ, it's like this. For maths, they take me out to the cliffs, which is just down the beach from the classroom. We're privileged in Darwin. And they give me a compass and a map, and they ask me to find my way back into the classroom. I said, what's wrong with that, champ? He goes, well, for the last 6 years, I've been in junior police rangers where they drop me into a forest and get me to find my way back into base camp. Instantly, I recognized this fellow bumblebee that is trying to survive in an institution with their rules and regulations, their policies and procedures, and his abilities far exceed them. But because they're operating in that scientist's world with the rules, regulations, policies, and procedures, and they need to be, but because they're doing that, he's labeled a D student, a delinquent, a degenerate, a disruptive. But he can do things. He just needs someone to help him achieve his potential. So I say to him, champ, what do you want to do? And he says, well, I love computers. I love putting them together. I love networking them. I want to be a network engineer. I said, great. I might have something for you. Now, back in those days, when I ran the consulting firm, I would get quite bored. And I would always do these crazy projects to help out my community. And one of the craziest things that I wanted to do was build a technology training center so that small business owners like yourself can come and learn about technology to improve their business. Not necessarily learn Excel and Word, but really figure out how do you take technology and improve sales? How do you improve marketing? How do you improve staff retention? The stuff that's everywhere now, but back in the day, no one had done that. And I got the opportunity to create this thing. And part of that deal was I was working with Microsoft and HP, and they gave me a whole bunch of computers and money and a whole bunch of other things. But what they didn't do was actually set up the lab for me, the training center for me. And I don't want to network computers, but now I had someone who did. So I say to him, all right, champ, here's the deal. You come work for me, and I'll teach you how to think like an entrepreneur, but I'll do you a deal. You have to stay in school. And he did. He come to work with me, and I taught him how to think differently. I taught him how to think like an entrepreneur, which is some of what I've shared with you here today. And magically, he just started to be more engaged at school. It was amazing. And together, we built this center, and we trained 160 business owners on how to use technology to solve their problems and grow their business. It was beautiful. By now, Robert's about 15 years old, and he started getting cocky. I can't handle that, so I fired him. I got no time for that. Anyway, so that was the end of that, right? And then a couple of months later, I'm on the Twitter sphere, and I see this tweet, and it was from Robert, and he says, you know, I once worked for this amazing boss, but I never knew what he was on about. But now I do. Thanks, AJ. And then I turn around, and he's standing there in the office. I'm like, whoa, that was weird. I just got your tweet. How you going, champ? He goes, yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Hey, I just popped in to tell you something. I said, what do you want to tell me, champ? I got your tweet. He goes, yeah, I just signed my 100th client. I was like, what? You're 16 years old with 100 clients? I said, how did you get 100 clients? And he told me the story of how he got 100 clients. Now, I'm not going to share that with you because he was kind of doing something that he shouldn't have been doing. And he stumbled upon an opportunity that was scalable. And now he's got 100 clients, right? So that's entrepreneurial thinking. And so, you know, that was great. And then a couple of years later, I caught up with him. And he's about 18 now, or 17 now. And we meet up for lunch, and his phone starts buzzing a lot. I said, hey, champ, how's business going? He goes, oh, I had to give that up. It was just not very interesting. but your phone's buzzing. What's going on with that? You got some girls on the go. What are you doing, champ? He goes, no, they're customers. I'm like, sorry. You just told me you gave up your business. He goes, yeah, I started another one. What are you doing now? And so, well, AJ, I just bought that new iPhone, and stupid me dropped it and smashed the screen. And I went to the local shopping center, and they want $600 for me to fix their phone. AJ, I'm 17 years old. I don't have $600. So I went to eBay, and I found a kit for $100, and I fixed it myself. And then stupid me put it on Facebook, and now everyone wants me to fix their phone. I said, champ, you making any money out of this? He goes, yeah, a couple of grand. It's like, is that a month or what? He goes, every week. I'm like, every week? Is that revenue or profit? It's, sorry, what's the difference? Now fast forward, and he's about 20 years old, and he says, hey AJ, I'm off to South Korea. And I was like, what are you going to South Korea for, champ? He goes, it's the world's home for esports. That's like a $30 billion industry, AJ. If I could just get a slice of that, even 1%, I'll be laughing. Great, champ. How cool is that? And then a couple of years later, he's about 21, 22, he calls me. And he knows not to call me because I don't do phone calls. But when he rang, I answered. And he says to me, AJ, listen, time's really tough. And I'm really struggling with business. And now I've got a girlfriend. And, you know, I'm going to have to give up this business and get a job. And I just don't want to let you down. Damn, what do you say to that? So I said, hey, champ, listen. Entrepreneurs do whatever it takes. If you need to quit your business and get a job, I support you. You have my blessing, and I always got your back. Thanks, AJ. That means a lot. Take it easy, champ. I'll see you soon. A year later, I caught up with Robert, and I said, how's employee life going? And he goes, well, funny story. Remember that thing that you said about entrepreneurs do whatever it takes? Well, I took a look at my business, and I realized that I didn't need to shut it down. It had some value, so I could sell it. I was like, and did you? Oh, yeah, I sold it. So what are you doing now? He goes, well, funny story. The people I sold it to, AJ, they don't know how to run that business. So they hired me back as the CEO. 21 years old, 22 years old. Here's a kid that was failing school because he was a bumblebee inside a world that rewards policies, procedures, rules, and regulations. And just like that, he's changed his whole life because he got his potential activated. And the reason why I share that with you tonight, my friends, is that all of us, at some point in our lives, we've been Robert. Or we know someone like Robert. Guaranteed, if I go visit your businesses, your organizations, I'm going to find Roberts in there. And so the challenge for all of you is to go out there, find your Roberts, activate human potential, and go out there and make tomorrow better than today. My name is AJ Kulatunga. Thank you so much for having me here today. You've been absolutely amazing. Thank you.